Hey guys, this is Tori Cushing with AuthorityLabs, and today I'm just going to walk you through an interactive dashboard tutorial where we can take a domain in AuthorityLabs that is tracking the rankings in different cities, and you're able to actually view each of those cities in this interactive dashboard. Here's a quick demo. If I'm looking at Chicago, I just changed the option in this combo box to the different cities, and the chart updates. This tutorial is incredibly inspired by Annie Cushing, the author of Analytics. She is really an Excel genius when it comes to Excel for marketers and visualizing the data. So you can check out more of her stuff. I'll put a link below. So let's just get started. Okay, so the first thing you're going to do is go into the AuthorityLabs website, go into your dashboard, and you're going to want to export the ranking data for each of the cities that you're tracking in your domain. So for the domain Olive Garden, where it's a synced domain, we have olivegarden.com for each of these cities, and we sync them together so that all the keywords are the same over each of the domains. Now, there are two tutorials on how to group domains and how to sync domains, and those are both going to be in the links below and showing up any minute now. But what we're going to do is just open these up and export the data. Okay, so what I did was I just went up into the top right corner and downloaded this page as a CSV. So that'll open up. So once I had this data for each of the different cities I was tracking, then I just brought them into one Excel document. So I did this by right-clicking on the tab and just moving it to the document that I wanted to move it to. Okay, so next I'm just going to grab the keywords, the Google ranking, and the volume data for each of these different cities. So I'm going to grab it for Orlando, Chicago, Phoenix, and Houston, Texas, and just bring them in here and just drop them in. Okay, so now that I brought in all the data for each of the different cities, I'm just going to convert this table into an actual table. I'm just going to do that by selecting it all and then insert table. Simple enough. I like to change mine to orange. Okay, so now that you have all of your data, you want to keep this data untouched. It's kind of sacrosanct in a way. You want to keep it in the raw data tab, which you can see here that I labeled, and really not touch it much, because what you're going to be doing, all the heavy lifting is going to be in the calculated data tab. Okay, so here's going to be the format for our calculated data tab. The first thing we're going to do is create a list of our cities. Now I just went back into the raw data tab and grabbed each of these cities and brought them over. Okay, so now that we have our list of cities, what we're going to do next is create the combo box, which is on your interactive dashboard. Okay, so now that we're on the dashboard, we're going to draw our combo box right next to the selected city option. So the first thing you're going to do is actually go into your Excel options and open the developer tab. Okay, so you go into File and then Options and go to Customize your ribbon. Then you just select the developer tab and add it to your main tabs. Simple enough. Okay, so now that we're in the developer tab, we can go to Insert, and under Form Controls, there's an option for Combo Box. Now make sure that it's a Form Control Combo Box, not an ActiveX control. So you just select this option, and you get this little marquee tool, and you just drag it out. Okay, so next what you're going to do is you're going to right-click to get the options for it. You're going to right-click and select Format Control. So what you're going to do first is select the input range. Now that's what's going to actually show up as options inside the combo box. And that's where we're going to use our list of cities. So you just go over to the calculated data tab and select the list of cities that we made before. And then you can press this little icon on the right hand side to get back to the options. Okay, the next thing you're going to do is a cell link. Now this is where it's going to export the number that you selected. So for Orlando, it would actually export the number 1, Chicago would export the number 2, and so on and so forth. So what we're going to do is link the cell to E4. So it takes us back to the original tab. You just go to the Calculated Data tab and select E4. Press the icon again. And the next thing we're going to do is actually select the number of drop-down lines. Since we only have 4 cities, we're going to make it 4. I also like to do the little bit of 3D shading. It's very minimal, but it looks nice. Press OK, and now we get these different options. So let's say I select Phoenix, Arizona. When I select that, it's going to actually export the number 3 because that's the third option on the list. Make sense? Okay, so next we're going to make our index formula. So we're going to do this in the step 3 option, and we're just going to start out with an equal sign as a formula, and we're going to type in the word index. So once I put in the open bracket, what I'm going to do next is select the array that I'm going to reference, which is just another fancy word for a container or a list. So our list is our list of cities. So I go over here and select that. I'm going to put in a comma, and next I'm going to say, okay, well, I want you to reference this list, but I want you to reference it by the number 3, or our cell link number. So I'm going to select the number 3, which is just an E4, and I'm going to press F4 to lock the options. So this is pressing F4, which gives us the different options to either lock the row or the column or both. Okay, so then I'm just going to end the index formula. Okay, so now when I put in a different number for the cell link, this index formula will say, okay, number 3, that's Phoenix, Arizona. Number 4, that's Houston, Texas. Number 1, that's Orlando, Florida. Okay, so the SUMIF formulas get a little bit tricky to work with at first, but just stick with me. We'll figure it out together. Okay, so I'm actually bringing in this image down here. This is just an image that I brought in from the original blog post to help demonstrate how the SUMIF formula works. What we're going to do is we're going to look at these keywords, the 5 keywords that we brought in from AuthorityLabs, and we're going to say, I want you to give me the ranking data for this keyword, but only if it's from Phoenix, Arizona. Okay, so we're going to start off by entering an equal sign and writing some ifs. Now that S is really important because that says that there are 2 criteria, or actually just multiple criteria, that it needs to follow. Okay, so we're going to reference the sum range, and if you look at the image, the sum range is going to be the ranking. So we're going to go into the raw data tab, and we're going to select the ranking range. And you don't need to include the header because that just kind of complicates it. All right, so moving on to the next step, I'm going to put in a comma. The next step that we're going to do is select the keyword. So we're going to go back into the raw data tab and select the keyword table. Okay, so now what our criteria is actually that keyword. So we're just going to select this cell, Italian restaurant. And when we do this, we're going to select F4 to lock just the column, because we're going to drag this formula down. So we want it to stay in column D. Okay, so add in a comma. And next we're going to go to the location. So we're going to go find the location in the raw data tab and select the location range. We're going to put in a comma and come back over to the calculated data tab and select the index formula in this cell. And we're going to lock it down. Okay, then we just put in our close parentheses, and there you go. We have our SUMIF. Now we're just going to select this bottom right option in the cell and just drag this down. So that drags down the formula to each of these different keywords. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is a SUMIFs formula for the volume data. Okay, so I'm just going to fast forward through this process so that we can move on more quickly. It's essentially the exact same thing, except we select the volume section instead of the ranking section. So you can watch the speeded up version here. Okay, so now that we've done the bulk end of the work, we're just going to put in a quick chart title. We're going to do this with the concatenation formula, and we're going to start by putting in a string, which is really just text inside quotation marks. So we're going to put that in, keyword rankings in search volume 4. We're going to put in a space here, because when we use the concatenation formula, it doesn't add a space automatically. Then we're going to put in the ampersand and select F4. And we're going to lock this down. Okay, so now we're going to make the chart. This is where it all comes together. So we're going to start off by, in our calculated data tab, we're just going to select this table and make a chart out of it. So you can do this by insert chart is a way that you do it in 2010 or 11. 2013, they have this really cool option where you can go to charts, more charts. I go to all charts, and what you want to do is select a combo chart. Okay, so what I did was I changed the ranking to align with markers style chart, and I changed the volume to a clustered column chart. You can barely even see the volume down there. So what we're going to do is just push one over onto a secondary axis. So I'm going to do this with the ranking. We're just going to press OK, and that's going to give us our very basic chart that we can work with and format and make pretty. What you're going to do is just select this. I just did Control X to cut it and then moved it over onto the dashboard. I'm just going to drag it out to make it a little bigger, easier to see. And now we can start formatting. So what I'm going to do is select this line and go into the formatting options for it. So you can format this data series. I'm going to go to the line options and actually say no line, because we just want it to be markers for the ranking data. And then I'm going to bump up these markers a little bit because they're kind of small. I decided to change it to diamonds and make it size 10 for the marker options. So next we're going to put in some axis titles. We want people to know that the left axis is for volume and the right axis is for ranking. Okay, so I did this by going and adding a chart element, axis titles, and we're going to say the secondary vertical and the primary vertical. So it's going to give us both of those different axes and give us the vertical titles for each of those. So I'm going to just do over here is put in the search volume and the rank for the other side. Okay, so we only have a little bit more formatting left, but what we're going to do is take the ranking axis and we're going to select it, go inside the axis options over here, and we're just going to reverse the values. Now this is really important to do with ranking data because number 1 is the best as opposed to the least. So we're just going to reverse the order of this so that Olive Garden is ranking number 1. The value is 1, so it's going to be at the top showing that it's a positive value. Okay, so last thing we're going to do is add in the chart title. We start by just putting in an equal sign, and then we're going to go into the Calculated Data tab and just select that chart title cell that we made earlier. Then all you have to do from here is press Enter. And there you have it. You have your chart title that changes every time that you select a different city in the combo box. Okay, so that is a full tutorial on an interactive dashboard for AuthorityLabs. This has been Tori Cushing. I hope you enjoyed it.